Hello everyone, and welcome to my Duel Today official news channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. In the Thursday, September 21 Days of Our Lives recap, John Black and Steve Johnson are shown chatting at a table in Brady's pub. John needs to talk, but isn't saying anything, Steve tells him. John finally came to the realization that Timothy Robichaud, the older John Doe, was actually his biological father. While on the phone with Chad Demura, Stephanie Johnson was unhappy. Stephanie questioned whether she sounded like a hovering housewife because he was running late and her parents were coming for supper. At that precise moment, someone knocked on the door of Chad's office at Titan, and he inquired about her meeting him at the door with a rolling pin. When Vivian Alamain answered the phone when Chad had to hang up, she inquired if there was any other way to speak to his new boss after Chad asked her why she was there. Maggie Kyriakis was attempting to calm her anxiety while drinking tea at Doug and Julie Williams' residence. Julie reassured her that she is family and had a registered letter to give her as she thanked them for letting her remain there. Theresa Donovan was still in the Greek hotel room, reading the letters from Victor Kyriakis' metal suitcase. She hurriedly reinserted the letters into the briefcase and stowed it before Brady Black and Alex Kyriakis arrived. Brady advised her to stop acting silly since they already knew what she had been up to when she asked if they had any leads. Alex claimed the front desk employee informed them she had placed an expensive food order using his credit card. Theresa replied she could explain, but it wasn't what she had anticipated. Brady again said to spare the act when Theresa argued that it wouldn't have happened if she had been permitted to accompany them. She inquired as to if they had any leads. Maggie opened the letter when she got back to Doug and Julie's place and discovered that Vivian had let her go from Titan Enterprises. When Chad questioned Vivian at the Titan office about what the hell she was talking about, she replied that Maggie was out and she was in. When Chad called her argument that her and Victor's divorce had not yet been fully finalized, Vivian once more insisted that the will had been destroyed. Back at the Brady pub, John and Steve continued their conversation, with John telling Steve the entire account of how Timothy and Joseph Bell, also known as Yoling, had shared a foxhole. Bell just switched dog tags with Timothy after he had cried out for aid after being wounded by shrapnel and suffering a catastrophic brain injury. Bell then left Timothy to perish. That definitely seems like a Yoling maneuver, Steve said. He messes with your father's life until he meets you. Yes, according to John. Steve described it as being fairly miraculous. John added that his father is a nice man and that he, Doc, and the kids enjoyed having him there. Steve expressed his happiness for him, and John responded that they would be cooing over him because his father deserved it more than he did. After that, Steve requested a toast. Kayla questioned where the kids were as Stephanie wondered where Steve was back at her in Chad's house. Stephanie gave Kayla some wine. Stephanie claimed Chad was delayed at work, while Kayla claimed Steve and John were conversing prior to his arrival. Theresa was brought up by Kayla, who expressed her delight at seeing her and inquired as to whether Stephanie believed that Theresa was pursuing Brady. Kayla wasn't convinced Stephanie was over Alex because Stephanie claimed she was dedicated to Chad, but Stephanie informed her that she was now pursuing Alex. In other words, did she see herself getting hitched to Chad? Kayla questioned. Chad called Maggie in the meantime and learned that Vivian had indeed fired her. Maggie joked that she was already at work and referred to her as a succubus. Maggie responded to Chad's inquiry about whether there was anything he could do by telling him that by working for Vivian, he wasn't betraying her. Maggie instructed him to learn what she was doing, and Chad hung up. He questioned Vivian about her goals, and she said that she was guarding Victor's legacy. Chad suggested she visit Greece and pluck olives, and Vivian made a very sarcastic remark about that. She will go back to Victor's initial plan of using Titan to sell narcotics, which Chad assumed were illegal ones before quitting. Julie claimed Vivian couldn't get away with this back at Doug and Julie's place, and that she was phoning Justin Kyriakis. Since there was no will, Vivian was the only successor and had complete power. She could fire board members who disobeyed her. According to Maggie, Justin couldn't do anything. The reality that Vivian was suddenly unstoppable had to be accepted. Back at the pub, John questioned Steve about Trip Johnson's condition in light of Ava Vitali's fugitive status. Rafe Hernandez advised Steve not to become engaged despite the fact that he claimed to be holding on. John informed Steve that Brady and Alex were looking into Victor's final days and that he wasn't going because he didn't want to be the middleman, even though he knew Steve wanted to look for Ava. Brady was reluctant to tell Theresa anything about his time in Greece since he didn't trust her after Alex highlighted Konstantin Melaunis' mention of a letter and the lost letters at Victor's childhood house. Theresa removed the briefcase and speculated that perhaps they were inside. She said that her father had given it to her when Brady questioned how she acquired the briefcase. Theresa halted Brady when he suggested that they open it after asking why she didn't tell them. Back at the pub, Steve was still speaking to John when he asked if he knew what Vivian was planning. John informed Steve that Vivian wants to take all of Maggie's fortune. Vivian suddenly approached John and cautioned him to watch what he says in public after Steve claimed she was envious and insane. She informed Kayla they had just moved in together when they were back at Stephanie and Chad's house. Kayla recalled that she had also moved in with his children, and that this made a difference. Kayla claimed they were growing connected to her, which Stephanie recognized she was doing as well. But Stephanie claimed they were too young to have their own house. Stephanie was asked by Kayla if marriage wasn't the obvious next step for her and Chad, or if it was just her Catholic mother's meddling best interest. Kayla claimed it had nothing to do with her Catholicism and that she had married Chad because she was frightened for the kids. Naturally, Stephanie responded as Chad entered and poked his head in the doorway. Back in Greece, Theresa informed Brady that Victor wanted Maggie to open it in accordance with her father Shane Donovan. Brady nodded in agreement and deduced that they should all return home as there were no flights available until the next day. Theresa attempted to follow Brady to his room. Stephanie thought it was ludicrous when Chad offered to leave so Stephanie and Kayla could finish talking back in Salem. Stephanie went on to add that her mother was simply being a mother and that her father would arrive shortly. She poured Chad some wine and inquired about his day. He said that everything was going well until Vivian arrived. Vivian referred to John as her adorable nephew at the pub and questioned why he never paid a visit to her while she was imprisoned. After hearing from John that he hadn't wanted to, Steve left after congratulating him on discovering his real birth father. Vivian questioned whether John was taken aback by seeing her, but he was fully aware that she was there and that Maggie wouldn't benefit from her fortune. Maggie had been discussed enough, and Vivian told John she wanted him to come work for her. She assured Maggie that she would help her find a means to combat this, and that, in the interim, she should continue staying with her and Doug back at Doug and Julie's. Julie dismissed Maggie's desire to get her own place as foolishness and asserted that Grandma would turn over in her grave if she didn't offer Maggie a place to stay. The Hortons have always stuck together, Maggie noted, adding that she would have found the situation amusing if she had known Victor had blown his wealth and had no money. Brady and Alex simply had to find a way to stop Vivian from stealing all Victor had worked so hard to get. Thanks for watching if you liked this video, so please don't forget to subscribe my channel and don't miss any update.